listening to Filling the Storehouse podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Stuart. And we want to walk with you on the journey to living the abundant life through faith, family, and freedom. Our goal is to refine our why while helping you find yours. Together, achieve our best and highest purpose. In the end, we'll drive each other to intentionally fill our storehouse. Storehouse listeners, what's up? This is Stu. Hey, before we get into this episode, I have one favor to ask of you. Go find our Facebook group. It's called Filling the Storehouse Podcast Facebook group, and join us. We're trying to grow the community, grow the tribe, to promote abundance and service and giving, and just share lots of cool stuff with you. We post clips from our podcast episodes, good books we're reading, information on our guests, previous guests, blog posts, just some cool, funny pictures, just lots of good stuff going on in our Facebook group. So would love for you to join us and tell someone else about us. We'd really greatly appreciate it. And go fill your storehouse. Make it a great day. See you. All right. Welcome to another episode of Filling the Storehouse podcast. We have a really cool guest today, David Clinton. I'm super excited about this conversation. We were just kind of reminiscing on how we all got connected, and it's interesting how there's a large group of individuals that we're all kind of in the same mindset and focus on one, real estate investing and business and entrepreneurship, but then also we all have a faith element to this, and that's a big part of what the Storehouse Mastermind and the Filling the Storehouse podcast is all about. Is that piece of it. So David, just so we have like an administrative discussion here right at the beginning, when I say David, that'll mean you, David Clinton, and when I say Dum Dum, that's David Gutierrez, or maybe I'll just go with Goody. What do you think?
Goody makes sense.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
Yeah, David, I appreciate you not taking that bait. And as we established before the show, getting to know each other a little bit, and as all of our guests know, and all of our listeners know, there's going to be ample opportunity to make fun of Stu throughout this podcast. He's going to say something that you're just going to be like, wow, that was really, really dumb. And I would just encourage you, take the opportunity, right? Don't hold any punches. Just say what's on your mind.
Okay.
David, for our audience, tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, where you came from, and what you're doing.
I'm in the Northwest. I'm in North Idaho, and it's about 100 miles south of Canada and about 30 miles east of Spokane, Washington. I'm a full-time real estate investor for about 8 years, and just recently am trying to wind down my real estate holdings. We can get into that a little later. So I've flipped houses, flipped apartments. I've moved a house, done mobile homes, single family, multifamily, anything you could think of just about in the small real estate investing world. And I've really enjoyed it. I learned a lot of hard lessons, sometimes $500,000 lessons, but God's brought me through, and I wouldn't take it back, So I'm also interested in philanthropy, making money to give money away. I think everything we own belongs to God. And my goal is to see how I can wisely steward his money as it flows through my fingers, and I don't hoard it and hang on to it. So that's where my passions lie, and why I'm starting to wind down my real estate and move to the generosity space, as they say.
So how long were you doing real estate before you started making this big shift?
I started in 2013. I sold a business in 2012. And if anybody who ever sells their business knows, you sell your job and now you're unemployed. So I had to figure something to do. I got into real estate in 2013, about a year later, and floundered around a lot, learning hard lessons, as many of us have. And I'd say 2020, right before COVID hit, is when I started my foundation. And I thought I was going to quickly wind down my real estate, but it's once you've built all these relationships and you've been pounding the pavement for deals for years, now they keep coming, whether or not you want them to. So it's taken a while to slowly kind of try to wind that down. I'm probably 50-50 my time in real estate and in the foundation world.
And just out of curiosity, what was the business before real estate?
I really boring. I formed LLCs and corporations for people all around the country. I learned what every different state jurisdiction expects and requires of you. And there's a lot of paperwork, People ask, "Oh, are you a lawyer?" Lawyers don't have to do that stuff. And they'll charge you 3 times as much. It's pretty easy. So, but yeah, it worked. Fed the family. I was able to feed 7 other families, my employees at one point. And
Awesome.
As the industry we were serving changed, the tenant common real estate industry stopped using LLCs. A lot of our wind was taken out of our sales. So we sold that in 2012.
Well, 2013 was probably a pretty good time to get into real estate investing, kind of just the very beginning of kind of the uptick and
yeah, that's a good point. And I didn't know that. I didn't know enough to know what I was doing, but the up market since then has really helped with the lessons I needed to learn and trusting the wrong people, moving too fast, growing too fast, things like that. So thank God for the up market.
Yeah, right. Well, so I'm curious, why was there a certain event or was there a certain kind of an epiphany moment that led you to making this decision to start kind of winding down your real estate career? And, you told us before we hit record that you're selling off most of your assets. And I'm curious what happened there. Why did you make that decision?
Great question. To be honest, it was written earlier before that. I was in college at Biola University, 21 years old, and trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life. And ever since then, I wanted to give money away. I knew I loved business. I loved making money, but consumerism wasn't my thing. If I was going to make all this money, what was it for? And that's, I kind of God smacked me upside the head and said, this isn't for you. This is to give to others, to further the kingdom, spread the gospel, feed the poor, clothe the least of these. And that is what I've been excited about. But I get out of school at age 21 and I've got $100,000 in debt. Like, well, I gotta figure out how to pay back what I owe before I can start giving money away. So after my business closed down, the next thing was, what should I get into that can make me a lot of money so that I can give it away? So that's why I got into real estate in the first place and been chasing after that bigger dream, really.
Now, just for further context, were you in college, sounds like you were, very faith driven, and was giving always a part of your, because this will lead into a future question. You mentioned the barriers to giving, and I really love how you frame that. But were you always a giver, or was it something that has become passionate later? Like what did that look like in the beginning?
Yeah, excellent question. I always thought of myself as a good steward and a giver, but really, if I look back, I have had this scarcity mindset that has been a huge barrier for my own giving for years. Growing up, on welfare, poor kid, you get this mindset that when a dollar comes into your life, you don't know when the next one's coming. And so either you're going to hoard or squirrel it away fast. You got to spend it fast. And neither of these are the right solution. It took me decades, I would say, to begin to trust that God's going to take care of me financially and particularly. And only in the last couple of years have I felt free to give what he's given me, knowing that he's going to continue providing for me. And it's given me so much joy in my life. And I want to spread that joy to others. But the fear of not knowing where tomorrow's food is going to come from has kept so much joy out of my life. And I feel so blessed to finally kind of be freed from that only in the last couple of years.
So, and very selfishly, we love our podcast because we get to ask people, basically it's a mentor session for us, but I'll be completely honest with you. As Stu and I have transitioned out of the military, we've been super blessed with, we have a retirement and we have, some investments that we had set up through real estate business that we had built, but it's not as necessarily as secure, quote unquote secure. It's not a bi-monthly payment.
Right.
And I'll tell you, I feel like if I name it, I'm having a bit of a faith struggle now that we're 100% dedicated to, this mastermind that we're building. And there's currently, we're building a mastermind. We're building a thing. It's not currently realized to its full potential, whatever that's going to look like, whatever God wants that to look like. But I personally believe we are moving forward in faith and what he wants us to do and how we're gifted. But that freedom, that when you said that, it sounds amazing, because I can tell you, I don't feel like I'm there from the perspective of having fully turned over the faith and knowing that God will provide. And I'm just curious if there's like practical things you did, or like what brought that about? Because I'm kind of jealous.
Man, I'll tell you, it's such a long struggle, and there's no secret or silver bullet, but I think just continually being in God's word, continually looking backwards at, wow, he brought me this far. 2016 for me was rough. The market's going up. A lot of people in real estate did great, but I was making huge mistakes. Trusted the wrong contractor, had 17 flips going on at once, and it all fell apart. And hard money loans on every single property. The first of the month, the mortgage comes due for 17 properties. It's scary. And looking back, God brought me through that. Things would sell just in time. I would get a wholesale deal just enough to pay my mortgages. And through his grace, I didn't lose any mortgage payments. Every lender, every investor was made whole. I lost probably $500,000. But man, the lessons I learned to depend on God, like, I don't know where the mortgages are coming from, but they were here last month. And I felt like being the Israelites in the wilderness, like just enough for today. And I knew since I was young, when people talk about depending on God, I didn't really know what that meant. And this was the year God's like, okay, we're going to teach you this lesson. It was a hard time, but my point is I wouldn't take it back. The spiritual lessons I learned, the dependence I gained on God was huge. And realizing I didn't get myself to where I am today. This isn't all my own efforts, and he brought me here. I can trust him to do it tomorrow. He actually loves me. So I think dwelling on verses like that too, that God loves you. He's going to take care of you. Why would he let the sparrows find their food day to day and not you? And I think that's at the core of not having a scarcity mindset, not feeling like we got to hoard and save every penny for, some retirement that may never come.
That's so interesting. As you're kind of speaking through this, what happened to you in 2016. We had some rough moments as well, and similar. Like we lost some money, like quite a bit of money on flips, but you're right. And like there were times where we were both incredibly nervous and not knowing where some money was going to come from to either close on a new deal that we had under contract. We were planning on one selling in time to get that cash back to then buy another one. And of course, the closing's delayed. So then we don't have the money. But then all of a sudden, a new investor reaches out and is like, hey, I want to invest with you guys. I want to lend you guys some money. And like that, God answers our prayers, right? Just in time. Exactly. And that happens so many times in these last 3 to 4 years. But I'm curious, like we had a conversation, one of our guests on our podcast, John Reinhardt, he wrote a book called Gospel Patrons. And we had an amazing conversation with him, and we read his books, and we actually did a men's group Bible study on a second book about giving. And, our idea of Storehouse 310 Ventures, this real estate company that was doing turnkey properties in Wisconsin, was we were going to take the profits from every single property, this idea of business, giving us the value of money to then give. But I'm curious, like from your perspective, you're like, all right, I'm done with the business. I'm selling off my real estate. I'm getting rid of all that stuff, which potentially could be an income stream to then give.
Sure. That's a good point. And I want to be clear. I'm selling my real estate so that I can have more time, and I'm lending that capital.
Okay.
I think it's amazing. It's a very cohesive progression from flipping houses to owning rentals, to maybe getting turnkey stuff. And then you've learned so many lessons in that process. Now I feel equipped with my knowledge and experience. Like I could lend money to everyone else who was doing that before.
Yeah.
I used to borrow hard money. Now I've just changed seats. And I can make wise choices with loans. When a flipper comes and asks me to borrow money, like, well, I did a deal just like that. I did pretty good. I'm happy to make that loan, or vice versa. I did a deal just like that and I lost my shirt. So no, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm lending the money. And that still continues the income stream to feed the family, to continue to invest in the kingdom.
Mm.
And I'm not getting entirely out of real estate. I'm just moving to the most passive seat I know of.
Yeah.
we did not talk about this ahead of time, but I mean, this is a similar path that we're taking right now as well. Like we took all of our private money lenders and we started a fund, and we're raising money into a fund, and we're basically lending money to our team in Wisconsin. So we kind of took a step back and stopped operating and managing. And it was a huge, time on both of us to run that. And, man, it's interesting. I really love how you kind of transition similar to us. It's good.
I think it's a very natural progression. I've seen mentors and others before me do this. And most of my hard money lenders used to be flippers. And then they were just rental owners, and like, oh, this is how it works. So you gain the experience, and then you value your time more than your money, because of course a flipper is going to make a better ROI than a lender, but the lender's return on his time is way better, right? So continually moving from that very active real estate to the passive spectrum, it seems to be what most colleagues I've seen do. And so I've just finally gotten there myself.
Yeah, that's good.
Congratulations on that. That's awesome. I especially now being out of the Navy, both Stu and I retired here last month, about 35 days ago. And that time, not having had it previously and now experiencing life with it is such a, we talk about ROI, and we were actually talking about this the other day. Not all ROI is measured in dollars.
Right.
And I think it's really important to recognize that, oftentimes we value time, and we usually are tying a per hour cost to that. But a lot of times it's that's only part of the equation, and we're not really fully grasping or enjoying. Sometimes we rob ourselves of the joy of that time by tying a monetary value to it. And sometimes there's just no monetary value to tie to it. It's infinite. It's too much.
Yeah.
And
that's
so
a really
love that.
I happen to mentor a couple of real estate investors. I have a handful at a time. And, but that's one of the things I start out right out the gate with them is, what resources do you have? And it's not just money, right? We have time or energy. If I've got a 70-year-old learning real estate investing, he's going to have a lot less energy than the 25-year-old, and look at all your resources, and then what are your goals? And sometimes most people, I think, who get in real estate investing just want freedom. And often we tie, like you say, money to that. But I think ultimately the money buys time, and time and freedom is where we really want. I want to just hang out with my kids. I want to go to my kids' ball game and not worry that my business is going to fall apart. And yeah, that's, I think, the ultimate.
I love that
can bring us.
I love that. And it's interesting when you said that. We recently changed the name of our podcast. It used to be Filling the Storehouse, Faith, Family, Financial Freedom. And we're like, nah, it's not financial freedom. It's freedom. And I love how you said that. So we recently took off the financial and now it's just faith, family, freedom. And cool. Because to your point, exactly. Hey, I want to jump into Find Me Faithful. If you don't mind, tell me a little bit about Find Me Faithful. And then I want to dig into some of the barriers that you see that biblically mandated, the group of people that are biblically mandated to be the most generous. Right. Why we are not, why we're found wanting.
Yeah. Okay. Find Me Faithful Foundation is, I started it, like I said, just before COVID. And all I knew is I wanted to give money away. And the way it started, though, my father-in-law, he's making and giving a lot of money, giving 8 figures a year. And, but he's also full-time in his business. And so I thought, he's gonna burn out here. And his best skill set is earning that capital. Why don't I come alongside him and help him manage his giving? And so we created this foundation together. He funded it so that I could pull, just hourly pay off of it. And I manage his giving. I figure out where his heart is. First of all, he's excited particularly about pouring gasoline on movements that are already happening in the Middle East and stuff. We're seeing tens of thousands of Muslims come to Christ, and kind of miraculous things like dreams, and Jesus shows up to these people. It's really cool, but that's where he wants to put his money. And so I'm out there pounding the pavement, finding organizations that are doing that work, vetting them, making sure that they're going to be good stewards of gifts that are given, and then bring them back to him as recommendations. And I loved this. I loved this work. I think there's got to be more big, I would call them accredited givers that have more money to give than they have time to focus on their giving, because they're so busy earning the capital. I want to serve these guys. I want to go out, figure out where their heart is. Can I help them put it to work? In my research, trying to find people to serve, what I found was these various barriers to generosity. And whether you were talking about the guy with $10 in his pocket or 10 million, there's still the scarcity mindset of like, well, I can't just be giving my money away, and not trusting that God's going to provide for you tomorrow like he did yesterday. So this is a huge one, but it's not the only one. Another barrier to generosity I've found is people get overwhelmed. You say, well, you know what? I'm passionate about stopping human trafficking. Now what? There's dozens, if not hundreds, of organizations doing something in this space. I don't even know where to start. And by the way, I'm busy, so I'm going to get back to work. And so I want to come in and help figure out, okay, you tell me exactly where your heart is. I will do all that research for you, and I'll come back and lay out a plan. And if you like it, run after it, to save the time. Other people feel like they're not overwhelmed. They don't have a scarcity mindset, but there's not enough communication with the ministries they give to. Ministries are busy doing ministry, and they're not great communicators sometimes. And so one donor I've worked with, for example, he wrote a $300,000 check to a church planting ministry, Central Africa. And the next year, he's like, I just don't know where that money went. I don't know how I feel about that. So I got the president of the organization on the Zoom and the donor, and we asked him hard questions. This donor is a CPA, so he's digging into financials, like what is going on here. At the end of that call, he was so happy, and he wrote him another check. But had I not forced that communication, it would have never happened. He would have just forgotten about it, had a bitter taste in his mouth about it. And I want to get in there and help, make sure ministries and donors can communicate well, and everyone's on the same page. So there's a couple of the things that Find Me Faithful Foundation exists to solve.
That is super cool. I mean, I'm thinking about, some of the nonprofits that we've looked into, and, we really like to get to know the founding members, the CEO, the people that started the organization, and have conversations. But I mean, I think, we're asking kind of surface level questions, and we might not even know the true, stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And, we don't give $300,000 away, but we've been given a decent amount of money away from our business ventures. And then, like if you found out something like later on after you wrote, a $300,000 check, and you're like, oh man, I just gave all this money to this nonprofit and they're just not using it wisely. Like that would suck.
Yeah.
And we watched a video that NCF, National Christian Foundation, sent to us. We set up a DAF, a donor advised fund, for our giving, and they sent us they gave us newsletters, and there's a video about this organization, this company that they give what was it, like 99% of their income away, David? A goodie.
Well, the owner of this $400 million business, you cannot give 100% of your business away.
Yeah.
By law to the DAF. So they gave 99% of their business away, and they take
Barnhart. Is that right?
What's that?
Barnhart Crane.
Yep.
Amazing story.
Incredible.
I was just with him on another podcast today. I bet he would be happy to be a guest on this podcast.
Oh, we'd love that connection. That'd be great.
Yeah,
I mean, to see that level of, when you talk about faith, right? And you talk about the things of consequence, and you talk about what we're here for. I've been thinking about a lot about this too, with, not to be morbid in any way, but some of our friends are, they're our age, and some are passing, and they get sick, and it's quick. And you start thinking about things that are important. What am I teaching my kids? What am I telling them? Do they know that I love them? How deeply do they know that I love them? Does my wife know that I love her? Does Stuart know how much I hate him? Like things like this, important questions.
Tell me every day.
But in all truth, the things that'll last, and that stuff is only, if you really think about it, your impact is pretty temporal, right? I mean, my kids, I want them to know, and there are lessons that may get passed down, but my name will be forgotten. I was listening to Rick Warren, and he said, how much are you focusing where you're going to spend eternity? He said, your life is just an opportunity for you to not like stink it up when you get to heaven. It's some practice. You have some practice here on earth to learn to do the things that God wants you to do. That's to know him better and to serve him.
Absolutely.
Right. And so what are you doing now to impact that? And so it just changes if you think that way, and someone like you with an organization that can help people to think that way and to direct is so powerful to me, because in reality, it's like that. And then it's gone anyways. Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think about, my kids are 11, 8, and 7, 11, 9, and 7. And so, but 12 years ago, we're getting ready to have a first baby. We don't know what's, going on. It's scary as heck, right? We spent so much time prepping for the birth process. We kind of failed to prep for parenthood, which is the real meat. And I think about our wedding too. So much time planning for a wedding. We didn't really put any time into planning for the marriage. What is this about? I don't know.
Well, it's funny, and it's interesting you say that, because one of the things that Stu and I have been talking quite a bit about, and with this group in the mastermind too, is it's super interesting that you say that, because we've really shifted our mindset into how we're raising our children today by asking the question, what kind of adult am I creating? Because the childhood, that phase is this big for, pray, Lord willing, for a life of 85 to 90 years, that 18 years is so small.
Yeah.
And what kind of adult am I investing in? Because sometimes we lose that. And then you're like, oh man, I created a spoiled brat that is entitled, and
it's too late. If they're out of the house,
they're gone. And the world is going to be rough. The world is going to be rough. And so it's a great question you have.
Love that. What kind of adult am I creating here? And I think about like legacy conversations too. I don't want my name to last. I don't care about that. But I think my biggest legacy is in the character building I can do with my children. And if I can give capital away, how can that keep growing and providing the gospel to the unreached and things like that, and thinking in long terms, beyond my life. That's so important.
So David, who is your ideal, avatar, the individual that you're kind of seeking out to help with this problem? I would
say
ultra wealthy.
Yes, kind of. Maybe ultra is not the right word.
Okay.
Accredited giver, somebody who is tithing in line with being an accredited investor.
Okay.
So, 20 to 30,000 a year at least. And so this is above average for sure. And I think these people, if you're giving that much, you have a heart for giving. And I want to help define that for people, and get them excited about it. I mean, I grew up, I tithed since I was a little kid because I was taught to, but it didn't become joyful for me until my late 30s. And I want to give that joy to people. Like, it's great that you give out of habit. What if you gave out of excitement? And how can I share that with people? So yeah, I would say the wealthier people, maybe not ultra wealthy in compared to the rest of the world. Absolutely. That's most of our country, but, and people who likely have a business or investment stream of income that they're focused on. They probably don't have a lot of time, but if they can take some time with me, I can maximize their joy in the giving that they do.
I love that.
And that's crazy, because I think it changes, what's really interesting is the everybody references the 10%, right? The tithe, everybody in the church. And the average is, I think the last time I was looking at the average church member gives 1% to 2%.
Cool.
And usually that 1% to 2% is like you're
so
ripping
hard.
that, you're ripping that out, right? But when you really see what you just said, it gets me excited. When someone gets excited about giving, 10% is like the lowest bar. It's like the minimum.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And they give because of this joy. And what's even more crazy about that is those people, and I'm not one of those people yet. Like, I will freely admit I am a 10% giver, and I strive, I desire, which is weak sauce words for I should just do it, but to give more, in kind of a scarcity mindset there, and if, when, or someday, which are someday is no day, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's interesting because the people that do that, you also see in them a level of joy that cannot be replicated.
Right. one of my mentors says, I've never met an unhappy, generous person. And, and it's true. And I've thought about, ways we can stretch ourselves. Like, okay, I give 10% and I do the penny, and I'm going to try to round up to the next dollar. We can continue to try to change our behaviors, but really it's the heart thing. If I'm not giving cheerfully, what's the point? God doesn't need my money. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, right? I've heard it said, tithing isn't how God raises money. Tithing is how God raises children. Like, oh, okay. This is about my heart. This is about growing in that. And if I can find the barrier for a given person, why is it hard for you to give? And how can I give you more joy in that? It changes the whole conversation. Now I changed the question from why should I give this away to why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I? We, for example, we had a camper trailer. Family's a little big for it. So we upgraded and we needed to sell the old one. And it was free and clear. Sold the old camper trailer. And my wife and I decided, why shouldn't we give away the profits to that? And it was so joyful to take that, sell the camper trailer, put the money in our DAF. And now, like, I didn't lose anything. I gained this joy for being able to give and to different things. My wife's heart is about Christian education. Mine is about unreached people groups. So we have 2 different donor advised funds and give out of those. But yeah, I think it really comes down to that joy that really can motivate us to give more.
Super cool. David and I actually had some kind of deep conversations. We've been doing like 2-hour drives to go check on some real estate that we purchased, and we have some really good conversations on the way. And Goody came to the conclusion one day. He was like, you know what? My why is like really terrible. We set up our business based off of this why that we kind of had in our mind of, and it was kind of based on a number. Like we had a number in mind that we wanted to make in order to have a number to give on a yearly basis. And so our why was based basically on a number. And we kind of came to the conclusion like, that's kind of a dumb why. It's kind of a dumb why,
So then, what did you go from there?
Where do we go from there?
Yeah, I mean,
we're still on the journey, honestly, and it's something that we've kind of been toiling with, is figuring out like what the true why is, and it's hard.
And I think the action to that though really drove. It was the beginning. It was the beginning of a foundation of us owning and accepting and then moving forward with the idea that this mastermind that is not focused on business, is not focused on making money like other masterminds we've been in, and nothing to their, nothing negative to them.
Sure.
But it's this idea that creating a mastermind to have men come together, and the focus is to challenge their marriages in a good way, and to challenge them as fathers and friends, and to recapture and invigorate those relationships that have been lost. That why, us realizing our why, like it changed the mindset of doing things to create money, because really it sounded beautiful. We wanted to make all this money to give all this money away. Well, really, it's no more honorable than just saying, I just want to make a lot of money. Like it really isn't.
I'll tell you,
I mean,
in that same vein, that's where I was at. I'm going to get into real estate so I can make a bunch of money and give a bunch of money away. And I would hear things that would convict me. Like, if you're not generous now, what makes you think you're going to be generous then? Like,
yes,
oh, that's true. And the one that really got to me was Todd Harper of Generous Giving. He was doing a podcast interview like this. And he said, people think that way all the time. I'm going to give money in the future once I've made money. And he says that future may never come. And the truth is, when people get there, it's always that one more dollar. Like, I'm not there yet. And you keep on changing the goalposts.
More, right? It's more. Right. It's never enough.
More. And he said, if for us to take our investment money and assume I'm going to grow this and then I'm going to give it away, says, I think I can grow this better than God can. Oh man, that just smacked me upside the head. That was, oh my gosh, I've been doing that for years. Yeah. I start giving more today and leave it in God's hands. He is the ultimate, business guy, investment guy, whatever it is. He knows far better than me what to do with this capital. I need to release it. And I think
that's what I love about the DAP.
That was the moment, I think, for me that really clicked.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. And that's what I love about the DAF. My advisor, a buddy of ours, hit me up the other day. He's like, "Hey, man, your DAF is taking a beating with the market because we left a decent amount of money in there."
Sure.
But I felt no pressure. I'm like, "Hey, dude, that's God's money. Like, I gave that money.
You're right. Yeah.
God can like that money can blow up. It can dwindle. Like, that's not my responsibility, which is also freeing. It's super freeing to what you just said, to give that control over and be like, look, God, I'm just a worm. Like I'm not gonna, compared to you, like I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And so it also relieves stress. And I think that's part of the joy.
If you can take that mindset and expand it, like even if I haven't given it away, it's still his stuff. Mm-hmm. I heard, I think it was John Wesley had a house burned down. And his response was, well, God's house burned down. What are we going to do now? But really like internalizing everything. I'm sitting here at a desk in a house with a car outside. It's all God's stuff. It really relieves that pressure too. You know, I try to talk to myself with things like the car breaks down. I'm frustrated. I got to pay the mechanic. But you know what? It's just a bank account transfer. God decided that the mechanic needed more money than I did. That's okay. It's his money, right? It's really giving up that, not just physical control of capital, but the mindset of the heart. Like, okay, I'm really going to submit. I am just a manager of God's stuff. But it's so freeing. And then I think the joy follows.
Yeah, that's good.
Love that.
So you're starting a podcast yourself pretty soon.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's what's that about?
Investor podcast. And we're going to have guests on like Alan Barnhart, people who have grown businesses and from being successful and then moving the next level to significance. Like, now what? You've made the money, and that's usually where we all start here in America. We're trying to make money. Once you get there and you're not fulfilled, you realize, I want to give this away. I want to give back or give forward and further God's purposes. So we're going to hope to have guests on that are in that same mindset and sharing what they've learned in investing, not just in worldly wealth growth things, but also taking that worldly wealth and investing in kingdom impact. So I'm excited about it. We're going to launch late August, and we're looking for guests right now. If anybody's interested, go to guest.thekingdominvestor.com.
That's great, man.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that, because it's what's interesting is, and I think God does this, and we have a buddy, Steve Cook, who highlighted to us that the money that he was able to make, it gave him a platform to reach a group of people that would not have cared to listen if he wasn't already wealthy, right? If he wasn't a successful flipper. And I love when you get some of these folks in that, and I can't wait for your podcast to drop, because I know that that there are going to be people attracted to these very high net worth individuals, or whatever, successful by whatever measurement is used. And then to be able to see the joy and the shift and the growth in generosity and giving is going to be, I pray it's an amazing thing, man. Like, I just think that within the church, there's so much potential. We could solve so many of the world's problems if we got to a 10% tithe, right?
Oh man,
as
world
Christians,
we're at now 5 times what we're giving as a church. We've missed the boat, I think.
It's crazy.
And this has happened alongside the wealth growing like never before, and we're giving less. It's so weird. And I think our culture, our American culture, is like, save for retirement, hoard your money, and we're throwing these messages our whole lives. And I think that's a lot of it, is not trusting that God's going to take care of us,
I love it. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait.
Thanks.
I'm curious. Have you started doing interviews yet? Have you had some guests on?
Just a couple. We're just getting started right out the gate. I think we've recorded 2 or 3, and awesome. And trying to get, as I've heard, it's wise to get a backlog of episodes that get in case your recording day, you're sick. Now what? Right. So,
right. Yeah, no, that's great, man. We'll put those in the email and the show notes, and we'll put that in there, and we'll blast it out when it comes out for sure. And Man, this is good stuff. What else? Is there anything else that you kind of wanted to talk about?
That John Reinhardt book,
Yeah.
Giving Together. And when you did it with a small group, and I hadn't heard of that book until you and I spoke about a month ago when we met.
Yeah.
And I bought it and I went through it myself just this last week. I finished it last night, and like, this is amazing. I'm really, so I'd recommend listeners look into that, get that book, get a group of people together that you trust, and go through it. It's the same kind of stuff, talking about the joy of giving, releasing our tight grip on the resources God's given us to manage. Highly recommended.
Yeah, we had a really good time. We had a kind of just a small group, and we'd meet on Zoom and go through it and answer the questions in the back of the book and challenge each other to sell stuff and give it away. And it was really cool. And it reminded me of that same conversation that you and I had. You were telling me about you were doing some jogs. Tell our listeners about that. What is a jog, and what are you doing?
Yeah, jog is a journey of generosity, and it's a 1 day retreat, basically 24 hours. Usually there's overnight, and get people together and just discuss stories about generosity. It's kind of hard to define, and I invite people and they're suspicious. I'll tell you what, it's not. It's not anybody asking you for money. It's not anybody trying to make you feel guilty about your giving. It's kind of seeing what's the next step God might have for you, and exploring that with other Christians in a safe environment where nobody's asking anything from you but your time. So we'll rent an Airbnb that has a bunch of bedrooms for different couples, and then we'll share meals together. We sit and watch video stories and discuss it, and it's just really powerful. God shows up, and lives are changed, and so it's exciting. I try to do one of these once every 1 or 2 months, just whoever's able to come, and I can do them on Zoom as well. Happy to put those together. But if you ever get an opportunity to go on a jog, a journey of generosity, absolutely do it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, one thing that you said that really resonates is, a lot of times when we're talking about generosity and we're talking about giving with others, it's not, like you said, it's not, the intent is not for us to raise money or to make you feel guilty. It's to expose you to the joy that we know we feel and others feel that is so life-changing, life-giving, and a blessing. And I think that part of it is sometimes lost because people feel an inherent guilt. And if you feel an inherent guilt, maybe you should explore that a little bit. But there's another side to that is much more rich and full of more blessing and brings true joy, and the joy of generosity and giving, I think is such an amazing place to be, that I desire to have more of that in my life. So if you could just help us make millions and millions of dollars so we could give millions away. No, I'm just kidding. Someday.
It's also guilt. The guilt, it's just, that doesn't need to be a part of it. It's not what you're turning away from, guilty from, about hoarding. It's about what you're turning to. And the joy, it's an adventure, as John Reinhardt says, to be with God in this journey of giving. It's exciting, and I hope others can catch that fire.
Yeah, us too, man. It's pretty rad, dude. So, David, this is awesome, man. I love your message. I love your mission. I hope people listen to this and reach out to you and talk about how you can help them with their mindset towards giving. Maybe we'll take a few sessions ourselves on
cool. I'd love to
on getting through that. Yeah. So how do people, what's the best way people find you?
Well, if you're interested in the Kingdom Investor podcast, while it's not ready yet, it will be. And the kingdominvestor.com is a website that isn't up yet, but that's where we'll end up being. If you're curious more, you want to chat about it, you can email David at thekingdominvestor.com. Okay. If you think you might be a good guest for that podcast, look at guest.thekingdominvestor.com. You can set up a time to be interviewed on the podcast. If you'd like to talk about generosity, giving, and any way that I can help with that, whether it's vetting ministries for you or tactics to save taxes so you can give more, all that kind of stuff, email me, David at findmefaithful.org. Both of those emails will get to me either way, but that's Find Me Faithful Foundation is where I'm focused on helping givers experience more joy in their giving.
Love it, man. It's good stuff.
Awesome. It's awesome, dude. I love it. And, just to encourage you to continue, you've got me fired up. I'm sure that there are a number of folks that you're helping lead them towards joy and further deepening their relationship with their faith with the Lord. And dude, I'm fired up for you, man. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the organization. Can't wait till the podcast drops. And just want to continue to encourage you, brother. You're changing lives and helping people experience the kingdom in a different way before we actually get there. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited to be where God has me right now.
Guys and gals, reach out to David. Find me Faithful Foundation. We'll put all the links in the show notes. And reach out, talk to David, and let's get giving together. And let's take this seriously. I think we could change the world. If we just gave even 1% more than what we're doing now, I think we could change the world. So share this with somebody. If this was a show that you really liked, we'd love it if you took a screenshot of that and shared it on your socials, tag us, and hey, maybe we'll give you a shout out on the next podcast episode. And most important, go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day, friends. Thank you, David. Appreciate
Thanks, David.
you, bud.
Thanks, guys.
See you.
Thanks for listening to Filling the Storehouse. If you enjoyed our show, please subscribe and share it with someone you love. And if you really felt inspired, leave a 5-star review so we could continue to grow and help other Christian entrepreneurs fill their storehouse. If you're interested in creating financial freedom through real estate investing, be sure to check out our website at storehouse310turnkey.com. We'd love to serve you through our platform of Building the Kingdom. Just click on the contact link and we'll reply to you as soon as we can. Again, thanks so much for listening. Now go fill your storehouse and make it a great day.